Hello guys and welcome back. Today we're going to check out the RTX 3080 Ti in Assassin's Creed Shadows at multiple resolutions, compare it to some of the PlayStation 5 Pro Equivalent settings I came up with on the previous video, which we'll go over. We'll even compare it to the 6800 XT and 9070 XT briefly too, because I have those results. So yeah, kind of a lot to get through. Let's start with 1080p. Native resolution, TAA, and for graphical settings, we've set the ultra high graphical preset, ray traced GI, and reflections. And as you can see, the game is quite a bit demanding, so we're unable to hit 60 FPS. But the game is very scalable, has tons of options, and you will see that we'll be able to run the game even at 4K and get a 60 FPS experience with ray tracing later on in the video. So yeah, quite a bit demanding, as you can see. I would say we're averaging around 50-ish FPS, although there are some areas where it can drop a little bit below 50 and go a little bit above it as well, depending on what's going on. A quick way to get some extra FPS and not much of a visual difference is to disable ray traced reflections. And as you can see, we do now go up a little higher, closer to 60. So yeah, I would always try to keep ray trace global illumination enabled if you can, because it does make a very noticeable difference in image quality, and I feel it is necessary to really truly appreciate the stunning visuals that are in this game and the beautiful environments, very interactive. Yeah. What we're going to do now is we're going to use my quote-unquote PlayStation 5 Pro Performance Mode equivalent settings, which is ray traced global illumination only with very high ray tracing quality and BVH quality, which I'm not sure that the PlayStation 5 Pro is using that high, but I will set it to that. So the same settings I used on my previous video with the 6800 XT, and all the rest of the graphical settings are set to high. And there is quite a bit of speculation on my part as far as these settings go, because we don't know exactly for sure what the PlayStation 5 Pro is using, but we do know that it is upscaling the game or running it at 1080p internal resolution, and it uses ray trace global illumination only. And other than that, it's the same as the base PlayStation 5's performance mode, as far as the rest of the graphical settings, according to Digital Foundry. And again, I repeat that there is a bit of speculation on this on my part, although the resolution part is pretty accurate. On top of Digital Foundry doing a pixel count, we also have Brazil Pixel, which has a software he's developed that can actually look at the internal resolution on the fly and what is upscaling it from. And as you can see at the bottom right corner there, it's being upscaled from around 900p all the way to 1090 or 1100p, because it is using a fair amount of dynamic resolution scaling as well. And as you guys can see, the 3080 Ti does really well here. We're well above 60 FPS, close to 70, and this is actually fairly comparable to what I was getting on the 6800 XT video that we looked at previously. As a matter of fact, here is the 6800 XT running with the same exact settings at 1080p, and I would say the 6800 XT is actually a little bit faster. It seems to be a little bit faster, although very close to around the 3080 Ti performance in this game, which is actually very impressive, because normally 3080 Ti is ahead in ray tracing, but this game does pretty well on AMD. But yeah, I guess that concludes the 1080p. There's not a whole lot to dig into here other than this. Let's go ahead and move to 1440p. Before we take a look at 1440p gameplay, I wanted to show you guys how the 3080 Ti compares to the 9070 XT in the built-in benchmarks, because I have already captured a bunch of benchmarks for all my GPUs, and here is 1440p native with ray trace GI and reflections and the ultra high graphical preset. And the 9070 XT is much faster, guys, than the 3080 Ti here. It's averaging 41 FPS on the 3080 Ti versus 57 FPS on the 9070 XT. That is around 36% faster on the 9070 XT. And for 1% lows, we have 34 FPS on the 3080 Ti versus 48 on the 9070 XT. So yeah, pretty big gap here between the two GPUs. Here's the 3080 Ti results page, and the 9070 XT results page. Anyway, let's get back to 3080 Ti 1440p gameplay. And here we are, guys, at 1440p with a 3080 Ti. We're going to start with native resolution. We're going to leave ray trace, global illumination, and reflections enabled. And for the rest of the graphical settings, I'm leaving everything on high. That's kind of what I used for my PlayStation 5 Pro Equivalent, if you will. And as you can see here, we actually do extremely well at 1440p. I would classify this as a 60 FPS experience. I mean, as long as you're between 50 and 60, don't drop to 40s with VRR. It actually feels pretty smooth. And as you can see, the frame time also looks very smooth. Let's make our way into this town, because towns can be a little bit more demanding sometimes. And yeah, we do drop into the low 50s. But that's about the worst of it. Other than that, frame time's pretty smooth. Now, yes, we are using a pretty high-end gaming CPU. Unfortunately, the game keeps crashing on my AM4 PC. I wanted to test some older Ryzen CPUs, but it happens right at the main menu every time. And it's an issue that some other people are dealing with as well, that Ubisoft's apparently aware of, but I can't do much about that. But anyway, I think this is as good as time as any to introduce a bit of upscaling. So we're going to set DLSS to quality, because it's 1440p. DLSS quality looks great. And this is the CNN model, by the way. We're not using the Transformer model, just regular CNN, and it looks actually really good. The Transformer model can have some, I guess can exhibit some ghosting sometimes with some of the, like the flying particles. Other than that, though, it looks really good with the Transformer model. Everything looks very nice and crisp and highly detailed. But the CNN model works really well as well. As you can see, this looks absolutely fantastic. And whereas previously we were in the low to mid 50s, we're now closer to 70 to 80 FPS in this little town area here. So yeah, 3080 Ti, we have ray trace global illumination enabled, ray trace reflections, and the ultra high graphical preset, which looks absolutely fantastic. Very fluid, very smooth. 61 FPS for 1% lows. I would say that is absolutely great. So yeah, if you're playing at 1440p, the 3080 Ti demolishes it. And guess what? If you were playing at 4K, you could set DLSS to performance and essentially get very similar performance to this, and it should look great as well. And we're going to test that in just a minute, because that is the end of 1440p. Let's go ahead and jump to 4K, shall we? Alright guys, so we're now at 4K, and I'd like to begin with native resolution again. And we're going to leave the graphical preset to high essentially, but we do have ray traced reflections and global illumination to very high again. So let's see, this is going to be very demanding, of course, because it is native 4K after all. And yeah, as you can see, it is into the 30s, to no one's surprise, really. So yeah, not too great. Unless you're used to playing at 30 FPS on console, this might be acceptable. Who am I to judge? I guess you could set a 30 FPS lock and enjoy the native resolution, I suppose. But with TAA, I mean, you could use DLSS quality and get an even better visual experience, actually, plus a lot more FPS. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. We'll turn off ray trace reflections. So now we're using my PS5 Pro graphical preset, if you want to call it that. And we're also setting DLSS to quality. And that keeps us actually very close to 60 FPS in this area. Now, where this differentiates from what the PS5 Pro is doing, that, well, the PS5 Pro is upscaling from around 900p to 1100p or so. And that would be 25% of 4K. The way they're doing the scaling in this game is they're counting total pixels. I actually made a mistake on my previous 6800 XT video. I made it even more demanding for my 6800 XT, unfortunately. So in this video, we're going to do it right. So yeah, we're actually, our internal resolution here is much higher than 1080p. And we're going to check out 1080p later, by the way. The 3080 Ti is going to blow it out of the water, as you're going to see. But yeah, this is really good. And even if we enter the town area here, we do go into the mid 50s. But other than that, I would definitely classify this as a 60 FPS experience. So yeah, guys, this is great. At 4K, you can enjoy your ray trace global illumination, The high graphical preset looks fantastic, as you can clearly see here, and you're at 60 FPS, which is absolutely fantastic. And we also have the option to turn on frame generation as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at frame generation on top as well. So thanks to AMD for making FSR frame generation available to everybody, because we cannot use DLSS frame generation on RTX 3000 or 2000, unfortunately. And fortunately, FSR frame generation actually does a really good job as well. And as you can see here, we go from 50 to 60 all the way up to 90 to 100. And it's fantastic, guys. Again, our frame time is really, really smooth. The game looks good, nice and fluid on a 4K OLED 120 Hz TV, which is what I'm using, and I'm sitting pretty close to it as well. The game looks absolutely fantastic. So yeah, this is a very nice and smooth experience, guys, with the 3080 Ti. So again, we started at 1080p where we maxed out all the graphical settings. We were having trouble maintaining 60, and now we're at 4K, which is 4 times the pixels of 1080p. And through the amazing tech that is upscaling and frame generation, we're able to maintain a very high quality visual fidelity and get high frame rate to enjoy a very smooth and fluid experience. So yeah, this is absolutely great. Alright guys, and this will be the final chapter, and this is perhaps the most exciting part of the video for me, because here we're going to try to match the PlayStation 5 Pro as closely as we can, which means 25% the resolution scale, because they're counting total pixels here, and 25% is 1080p. My previous video, I made a mistake. I thought it worked like FSR and DLSS, so I set it to 50% on the 6800 XT, and still the 6800 XT was able to pretty much get 60 FPS with these same settings. So we're matching the PlayStation 5 Pro as closely as we can. We're using TAA to upscale from 1080p to 4K, RT GI only, and as you can see, the 3080 Ti is well above 60 FPS, no problem here, and we're in an even more demanding area of the game here. It's much later into the game here. We're inside a big castle, so yeah, the 3080 Ti is doing great here. And to be honest, TAA actually doesn't look awful upscaling from such aggressive resolution. But it is what the PlayStation 5 Pro is using. They're using TAA to upscale from 1080p to 4K. And I heard that actually Sony have sent their engineers to integrate PSSR into Assassin's Creed Shadows. So I'm hoping that can happen, because PSSR should be able to do a better job than TAA. Although there has to be a reason why Ubisoft didn't put it in. Maybe they couldn't configure it properly. I'm not really sure. Hard to say, really. But yeah. Either way, though, the 3080 Ti seems to do really well here. We're well above 60 FPS here with RT GI and TAA. I think we can dial things up another notch, quite a bit actually. We're going to try to enable ray traced reflections as well now, and use DLSS to upscale from 1080p to 4K. And will you look at that, guys? We're still well above 60 FPS. Not by a ton, but we're hovering above 60 FPS. We did lose a little bit of performance, obviously, because we also turned on ray traced reflections on top of ray traced global illumination. And I'm going to go ahead and assume that DLSS is probably a little bit more computationally expensive than just running TAA. But still, DLSS at 25% of 4K, actually, I would say it looks better, more consistent than TAA does. So we get higher image quality, and we also get ray traced reflections on top of ray traced GI. So I would say, yeah, this definitely is a better looking visual experience, and technically more fluid as well than the PlayStation 5 Pro is getting at the performance mode. Again, guys, these comparisons that I make sometimes, people do enjoy them, and they're more from an enthusiastic perspective, right? Like I said, there is a level of speculation here. Obviously, I'm trying to imply and apply what we know about what the PlayStation 5 Pro is doing, and then kind of tweak things a bit more out of curiosity to see what these different GPUs can do for fun. But some people, unfortunately, take this stuff a little bit too seriously. So, of course, I'm sure there's going to be some people that are not going to be happy with this, and they're going to try to criticize the type of CPU I'm using or whatever it might be. But the point here is to see what the 3080 Ti is able to do in this game at multiple resolution and settings. And that's what we're doing. And I would say 3080 Ti does extremely well. But before we wrap it up, we have one more ace up our sleeve, so let's use it. Which is, well, it's frame generation, guys. Of course, we're going to keep the same exact settings we had before, but we're going to throw FSR frame generation on top. So, to sum it all up, we're running at 4K, upscaling from 1080p like the PS5 Pro is doing, but we're using DLSS instead of TAA, which leads to a much better image quality. Unlike the PlayStation 5 Pro's Ray Trace Global Illumination only, we also have Ray Traced reflections on top as well. All high settings and FSR frame generation on top. And will you look at that, guys? I'm able to get essentially 120 FPS on my 120 Hz 4K OLED TV with beautiful visuals, beautiful, very transformative Ray Trace Global Illumination, and very nice reflections, which can add quite a bit to the atmosphere as well, because the reflections in this game, it's not just doesn't just apply on puddles, but it also applies on a lot of different materials like wood. It can enhance the material properties and can be a bit transformative as well, although not as much as RT GI, of course. But yeah, guys, I guess to sum everything all up, the 3080 Ti does extremely well here. We compared it to the 6800 XT. I think the 6800 XT was a bit more capable in this game, and the 9070 XT was a lot more capable than both 3080 Ti and 6800 XT. But as it compares to the PlayStation 5 Pro overall, I think both 3080 Ti and 6800 XT are definitely more capable. I mean, clearly you can see. Now, once PlayStation 5 Pro gets PSSR, it should definitely be have a higher quality image than the 6800 XT, which doesn't have access to FSR4 or DLSS or anything like that. But I think overall the numbers, it's just interesting, guys. This isn't meant to be all, because some people take this stuff a little too seriously. It's supposed to be mostly for fun and just to see what this hardware can really do. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Share your thoughts down below. Let me know. And please give the video a like if you liked it, and consider subscribing for more. But that's going to be it for me. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next one. We died again. Bye-bye.